Hello everyone. I would like to welcome you to the start of this focus week revolving around user-centric EA portfolios. As the name suggests, this week we will be presenting some of our most important and interesting enterprise architecture portfolio webinars. In this first session, we would like to elaborate on why such a company portfolio is important for the planning and execution of any architecture initiative. Furthermore, we will show how to achieve this using our enterprise architecture tool, ADOIT, and its worldwide standard ArchiMate. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Pablo Roberto Struck. I will be your host for today's webinar. My colleague, Enrique Lobo Cruz, as our EA expert, will now be guiding you through the technical part of the presentation.
Thank you, Pablo. And I would also like to personally welcome everyone to today's first of the EA Focus Week webinars. My name is Enrique Lobo Cruz. I am an enterprise architecture and business process management consultant at BOC Group. I've been working for the last almost 10 years now on global and multinational projects with customers in different fields of architecture and process management. And I'm excited to be here today to talk to you a bit about this interesting topic, which will provide a baseline for all of the other Focus Week sessions that you will be listening throughout this week. So very happy to be triggering that first open discussion on first the role of EA portfolios in enterprise architecture. That's what we'll be covering in the first part, and really what EA portfolios mean and contribute to the ongoing transformation of our organization. And we'll move on to the second part, which will be focusing on the use of such an EA portfolio perspective and approach, and how would we build within ADOIT, and really giving you some insights into how customers benefit from such portfolio strategies within our tool. So let's start it off with the role of EA portfolios in enterprise architecture. When we look at an organization, any of our organizations, we obviously do not live in a bubble. We all are susceptible to the different factors that are around us. We know this especially recently, but also changes in legal or regulatory aspects, changes in our customer base, competitors, technology that comes in. These are all factors that we obviously need to be aware of, and we as companies always are looking to change and transform to obviously address them, but also leverage the opportunities that those changes in our surrounding environment bring. So that aspect of transformation is something that is continuously there, and we obviously see the ability of organizations to address those changes and to successfully transform due to those changes as key to our success as an organization. We also see that this transformation is therefore something that lives as a key part of enterprise architecture. And when we look at the different methods out there, of course, there's many frameworks and standards of how to approach, from an enterprise architecture perspective, this kind of sequence of transformation. But in general, if we abstract and generalize most of those, they really fall or break down into three main phases. We have first a planning phase, then an implementation phase, and then a monitoring and improving phase. And this is typically what makes up a general transformation project. We typically see that from a transformation perspective, we have typically projects that happen in the past, that have happened in the past. They provide and inform what we are today, so our current baseline state of our architecture. And this baseline then gets obviously transformed again or changed by the transformation projects, where we obviously plan something, we implement that, and then monitor and improve it as we go on. And this sequence over time that really provides a change or is based on the transformation of our baseline is really focuses on having an understanding of that baseline, first of all, and the dependency that we have to having a successful transformation project is clearly or usually very typically defined as a dependent on the baseline understanding of our current architecture, and really having a holistic view of how the different transformation projects that change, and of course the ones that come up in the future also, will affect that baseline. So this continuous transformation and business transformation that happens is what obviously helps us realize and execute these projects. But we also need to keep an overview and have an understanding that when we look at these transformation aspects, we're typically looking at different portfolios that will be affected. So if we go from the bottom up, we'd see our technology architecture, application architecture, data, business, and transformation architecture. And also recently becoming more and more important, the compliance architecture. So how the different regulatory, whether external regulatory compliance targets or internal architecture guidelines and principles are being adhered to. And this set of portfolios obviously provide one of the or a specific way to look at our architecture. But when we look at it from a transformation perspective and we look at all the assets that make up those layers, transformation typically cuts across these layers. So if we took a transformation view across these portfolios, this is what we typically see in a transformation project. We'd see an initiative that has a specific scope. The boundaries of that scope are typically something that is important and somewhat clear within a project, but a very important aspect is also where those boundaries connect outside of the direct scope of that project. And this is where the portfolio view is quite important and helps inform that transformation view. But at the same time, the transformation view, in turn, as transformation happens, it informs back into the portfolio perspective. And so these two views of transformation and portfolio are symbiotic in nature and are also key to keep a balanced approach of both continuous change and transformation initiatives, but at the same time a balanced portfolio that is looking out for the needs and interests of that particular architecture layer, and of course of the benefits that come from having a more portfolio perspective. So all in all, this interdependency of the portfolio and the transformation aspects allow us to maintain a robust documentation of baseline, so having that baseline as a reference, but also continuously updating that baseline via the transformation projects that happen, and those transformation projects therefore allowing the portfolio perspectives and views to be updated, but also therefore also informed and having the right strategies that would affect that portfolio also have an impact back onto the transformation perspective, where from a portfolio perspective, we might identify transformation potential, and after transformation or during the execution of transformation, we might also identify potential for portfolio perspective improvements. So these are definitely two of the key aspects that we see creating benefit within organizations. And so we're now going to quickly take a look into how we would use such EA portfolios in ADOIT. Before jumping into the tool, just want to kind of talk through what is and how do we see the built-up definition of an EA portfolio and what are the components of an EA portfolio. So the first key aspect of an EA portfolio is having the stakeholders and business roles that are the main responsibles, but also the most impacted by these specific portfolios. We want to understand what are their needs, what are the challenges that are addressing, and as architects really address them as customers of our EA service. From that, we obviously derive or define concrete questions that we want to be able to answer for these stakeholders. So what are those, from those pain points, what are the questions that would be ideal to be able to answer, within which timeline and which quality, and we want to really on that basis, define almost the requirements for what we would, as an architecture team, define as our documentation and reporting needs. From that, we derive also the method. Once we know what we want to answer, we would understand what aspects of the architecture we want to document, to what level of detail, who is responsible for maintaining or collecting that information, what systems might already have that information, where we might be able to integrate to those systems to retrieve golden source information and therefore then connect it within ADOIT. That method really establishes the working procedures for the EA team, the processes of how we go about doing our work in response to the needs of our stakeholders. And of course, the outcome of those methods and the way we provide those methods out is there through viewpoints. So generating either models, views, which we have, we'll be showing also in ADOIT, whether that's a matrix view, a bubble chart, a Gantt view. Those help us communicate our answers to the questions our stakeholders have. And then last but not least, obviously publishing those results either through ADOIT or through integrations to those systems that those stakeholders already use to collaborate, whether it be Confluence, where we can publish direct live content out to our stakeholders, or through Teams integration, where we can have collaborative conversations around the content and viewpoints that we generate. And so this is what we see from our experience of working with customers that makes up a robust definition of an EA portfolio and an EA portfolio viewpoint in that sense. So let's jump right into ADOIT. We're going to take a look at how we can actually leverage the tool to make our life easier when we're working within the both portfolio perspective, but also looking at how the transformation viewpoints inform and interact with that viewpoint. So jumping to ADOIT, we're starting as a business analyst. We're working in the context of a sample bank, and business analyst is looking out within the application portfolio. We are aware that there's a partner system application that we're actually looking to decommission, and we've now started investing in a new partner system. So we're going to be looking at how, from the portfolio perspective, we might have some activities there and looking at the overview, and then how we see the transformation information really playing in and informing that portfolio perspective as well. So here we have a quick access to different portfolios, and we're going to go into the application components. So here we see the full list of applications that we have in our portfolio, and we can quickly filter, search, obviously. So if we were looking for partner system, but I know it's a system that we want to eliminate. So here we have all the systems that we've tagged. So these groupings are user-specific or user-defined groupings. That means we can at any time for any portfolio create our own grouping. We can basically define it as a tag against any of the assets. Also, we can create a coloring scheme around it. We saw before we had, for example, some of the ones that we want to tolerate or invest. We have a whole from the Gartner method of time management. So we can decide which ones we tolerate, invest, or eliminate. So we're looking at the ones that we want to eliminate. So from a portfolio perspective, we can select all of these and throw them onto a quick bubble chart. So let's do that here to look at the business fit, cost fit. So we have the cost fit, business fit, and strategic importance. We see the applications that are going to be eliminated. Most of them have not so high strategic importance, but here we have partner system, the one we are actually looking at in this example. Partner system has bad cost fit, bad business fit, and it is of very high strategic importance. So that's obviously one way of kind of approaching this from a portfolio perspective. But whenever we find or we want to look into the details of that asset within the portfolio, that is then also considering all of the other transformation contexts, we have therefore our insights dashboard or insights view on partner system. So at the top, we see it's partner system. We have some application insights on the surrounding applications. So we have applications that the partner system is consuming interfaces from, for example, our capital returns tax system and our internal control system. But we also see the applications that here in a much higher abundance are consuming interfaces provided by partner systems. So we see downstream here a lot of different operational systems that are quite critical for us: sales, SAP, HCM, our travel receipts management, credit card management systems. So in the bank, quite critical systems. All the details of all those connections available here through the interfaces that they provide. We also see from a portfolio perspective the scoring that we saw on the portfolio, but here in those gauges that inform our IT fit, business fit, cost fit. And also very interesting insight is the redundancy analysis. So here we already see our business partner. This is the application we're going to be introducing. A business partner has, in this case, redundancies or overlap in this case clearly because we're replacing partner system with business partner, over the capabilities listed here and the different functions, so business functions that are supported by both, in this case, business partner and our partner system. Obviously, because from a lifecycle perspective, we're just about to retire business partner system. Here we see this overlap happening. In other cases where that overlap is not desired, the tool will still highlight this type of overlap across the portfolio. So that's always helpful from a portfolio perspective. We have the traditional lifecycle states and investment strategy that we have in this case to divest in our partner system. And also importantly, kind of the relationship that we have to data elements. So when we're looking at, for example, our audit data or a key one partner data, where it's being transferred to and from, we can see that directly within the context of our live model here that's automatically generated. Details on the data elements and the technology roadmap status, also, for example, technologies that are now in a deprecated status, which might be one of the reasons we're decommissioning this application, all shown directly here. So this gives us a nice way to look at what is happening, what is the investment strategy from a portfolio perspective, but also a link to how this is transforming. So we can see partner system is one we're replacing. If we go into the insights of our partner system, we'll see a very similar scope of applications, because in this case, the team has already done a good comparison of what's going to be introduced and retired, but we see that full scope here. We see a much better component scoring for the application itself on the security, IT fit, cost fit, and we see also that it's currently in development and will be continuing. We're investing at the moment, and we see that kind of full scope with a much better definition also of, for example, technology roadmap status of all technologies that support it. And this really gives us a very clear understanding of what's happening around the application. We can see if we wanted to, for example, just run into a more transformation perspective and see what are the, for example, roadmap statuses of the technologies that support the application. That's a quick access that we can do from there, and just get a general overview of what is, first of all, happening from a partner system perspective, and now with business partner, looking at how that application will be introduced now after a project happens. So that's really the value of having both a portfolio perspective combined with the transformation perspective. It gives those unique insights to a user whenever interacting from a portfolio perspective or the transformation perspective, keeping everything in one place, but also visualizing those dependencies first, second degree within one view. It really provides that ideal environment for the transformation, but also the portfolio management to happen within ADOIT. In summary, we discussed the importance of EA portfolios, especially in relationship to the transformation activities that happen in the organization. But aside from the importance they have within the context of transformation and continuous change, portfolios also have on their own, as a standalone portfolio practice, their own benefits. We see a lot of importance in terms of the operation, in terms of cost saving, in terms of overview and balancing of portfolio investments. So this is especially what we'll be focusing on in the following sessions within the Focus Week. So we see there the upcoming Focus Weeks webinars on business capability management, application portfolio management, data portfolio, technology, and then the overall ADOIT ecosystem. So I hope this was an interesting and good introduction that provides you a baseline for the upcoming webinar sessions. And I want to thank you for your time and look forward to seeing you in an upcoming webinar, and enjoy the rest of the series.
Well, thank you, Enrique, for introducing us to this Focus Week and giving us a well-rounded base from which to continue exploring. Now, dear listeners, if we have made you curious regarding EA initiatives, and it just happens you are looking for the right tool to get going, well, then you are more than welcome to follow the links below and get our free ADOIT version, the ADOIT Community Edition. ADOIT users can always reach out to our experts and consultants regarding any questions on their EA portfolios. You can reach us directly over our website or contact your key account manager. During the course of the Focus Week, we will be looking into the different areas of portfolio management to get a better understanding of each part. Our next webinar will be about business capability portfolio management. I would be happy to see you there again. Until next time, and take care. Bye-bye.